3 Salt Lake City police officers are now quarantined, and 2 of those are because they were at that Jazz game on Monday night.
Fox 13's Scott McCain has more on their situation. Scott?
Yeah, good morning, guys. All this developing this morning as well. A total of 4 members of the Salt Lake Police Department, as you mentioned, 3 uniformed officers and a civilian employee. They're all at home right now under self-quarantine. And this all began to unfold last night as soon as the news broke about Rudy Gobert having the coronavirus and the NBA season being suspended. Well, a couple of those officers conferred with Chief Mike Brown. There are, on any given game night, dozens of Salt Lake officers there, but a handful, including these 2 uniformed officers and a civilian employee, they happen to have close personal contact with team members on a regular basis. So the decision was made for them to self-quarantine to stay at home. Now, the good news is none of them are displaying any symptoms of the disease. They're hoping to be tested at some point today. That may have already taken place, actually. And the other employee, the uniformed officer, he had just returned home from a country in the Far East, one of those countries that was on that kind of so-called watch list. So he is also at home. He's been home for a couple of days now on self-quarantine. But this is a situation where Police Chief Mike Brown says they're all erring on the side of caution to make sure this critical element, public safety here in Salt Lake City remains intact.
Mayor Mendenhall has brought the team members together, and we have all looked at ways that we can limit that exposure so that we can better serve this community. So I think we're in good hands. The message I have, or the call to action, is if you need us, call, but let's take every precaution that we can not to spread this virus if we don't need to.
Yeah, one of those other precautions, according to Chief Brown, is that for now at least, they're doing away with the traditional police lineup. You know, you see it in TV shows and movies. Officers show up and, before they hit the streets. Well, now they're going to be doing that remotely, calling in on their radios, checking in before they hit the streets and cover their beat. And then one final element right now with the Salt Lake Police Command staff in particular, they've broken up into 2 teams, a blue team and a gold team. Chief Brown is on the team that's here today, the other half of the command staff working from home. And again, it's just an overabundance of caution to make sure if someone is sick, like in the lineup situation, they don't infect the others. And in the command staff situation, if someone, heaven forbid, gets sick or winds up coming down with this virus, they've got the other side of that command staff at home and ready to step up. So a lot of precautions being taken here. And this situation continues to develop. And as soon as we learn more, we'll let you know. But for now, we're live in Salt Lake City. Scott McCain, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, it's good to try to stay ahead of this. Thanks, Scott. The Lieutenant Governor is soon going to make an announcement on how colleges across the state are taking steps to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Fox 13's Lexi Johnson is live with more on the changes. Lexi?
Good morning, Dan and Tamara. Yeah, there's so much going on today. Governor Gary Herbert, Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox, as well as the Utah Jazz and members of higher education are set to speak here in just an hour about COVID-19 and give us an update on what the state plans to do to help stop the spread of the virus. Now, due to the coronavirus, a number of organizations are canceling or suspending their events. Now, as we know, the NBA just suspended the season last night. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not allowing the public to come to General Conference. Major League Soccer is suspending its season until further notice, and the AAC, Big Ten, and the Southeast Conference are canceling their men's basketball tournaments. Now, a number of universities and colleges all over the country are canceling in-person classes as well, and in just an hour or so, we should know what Utah's higher education system plans to do. The University of Utah, Weber State, and Utah State University have all said they'll make a decision if they should move to online classes after the governor speaks today, but they are preparing to do so if that's what's recommended. So again, we are planning to learn more about this coming up at noon. Again, the governor plans to speak on what higher education is going to do, as well as we should get an update on some of those Jazz players from the Utah Jazz. For now, we're live in Salt Lake. Lexi Johnson, Fox 13 News, Utah.
To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days.
President Donald Trump made that announcement to the nation last night. He says the restriction does not include travel from the United Kingdom. It also does not apply to U.S. citizens, but they may be subject to screenings. The ban goes into effect Friday at midnight. In his speech from the Oval Office, the president indicated there will be no financial assistance available to industries adversely affected by COVID-19.
Congress is closing down the U.S. Capitol and the House and Senate office buildings to the public anyway until April 1st in reaction to COVID-19. Only lawmakers, staff, journalists, and visitors with official business will be permitted to enter the buildings.
And if you have concerns about coronavirus, call the COVID-19 Utah hotline number. You can see that is 800-456-7707. Now, there are many other resources and stories about COVID-19 at fox13now.com. A new navigation tab at the top of the page will take you directly to a case tracker map, Utah Department of Health updates, ways to stop the spread, and more on the outbreak. Also, a programming note, tomorrow night at 9:30, Fox 13 News and our parent company Scripps will present a half-hour special report on coronavirus with facts about the virus, how it spreads, and how to protect yourself and your family. A lot of helpful information there. We hope you will join us right here on Fox 13 News.
Well, we're looking for some helpful information in the weather department. I know that northern Utah looks different than southern Utah right now, and I don't know. Both are pretty good, though, Allie.
Yes. As of right now, it's just cloudy across southern Utah, but there will be increased chances for rain heading into later today. Here in Salt Lake, though, clear sky. Check out this live look on our Intermountain cam. So this is from Murray facing northeast across the Salt Lake Valley right now. It's low 50s, light wind out of the west, 5 miles per hour. We've got a few clouds in the southern portion of the state, mostly east of I-15 up towards I-70. Once you get north of Price, it looks like that's where we've got all of our sunshine right now. 43 in Park City, 50 for Ogden, 49 in Logan, 50 in Tooele, 50 for Provo and Nephi, 46 right now in Price, and St. George, 54 degrees. Hourly forecast for Salt Lake. How about this? Mid-50s today, so pretty close to average, just barely warmer than it is usually for early to mid-March. So we head into this afternoon. Obviously, we'll have the sunshine here in Salt Lake City. For the Cottonwoods, sunny and in the 40s, and for St. George, partly cloudy, about 70. But increased chances for rain across southern Utah tonight. That becomes likely this evening. And then we've got a pretty wet forecast ahead of us. I'll have your 7-day coming up in a few minutes.
Getting around on Utah roads at night could soon get easier. The possible impact of glowing road paint coming up.
And despite COVID-19 concerns, Olympic officials say they cannot cancel the summer games. Their reasoning still ahead. We are taking a live look at the big board right now. Actually, just a couple of minutes ago, things were looking a little bit better. The Dow had only slipped about 3% on the day, but now it's back to being down about 6%, down 1,400 points. It was down only about 600 just only about 5 minutes ago. So there's a lot of volatility still, clearly, with news coming out minute by minute on the coronavirus and very jittery investors and traders today. The Dow is now at 22,100. Unified police say they're searching for the person responsible for shooting and killing a woman in Mill Creek.
Officers say just after 10 last night, they received several calls about hearing a gunshot in a neighborhood near 800 East and 4500 South. When they arrived, they found a 57-year-old woman in her car with a gunshot wound to her leg. Police say an officer applied a tourniquet and the woman was taken to the hospital where she later died. Unified police say this is a very unusual case.
It's very odd, given the circumstances that this isn't her home. Always the potential that it's random.
Unified police say the woman was visiting a friend for dinner and was leaving to go home when she was shot. Witnesses tell officers they saw a dark-colored SUV leaving the scene at the time of the shooting.
The mother of J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan, the missing Idaho children, may not be appearing in court next week after all. Lori Vallow Daybell's attorneys have filed a motion to have next week's hearing delayed. She was supposed to be in court next Wednesday and Thursday. They've also filed a motion to have the judge removed from the case. Lori's preliminary hearing is still scheduled for next week. We'll keep you posted on whether that changes.
Well, the lines on the road can be hard to follow at night or when heavy rain starts to form puddles on the road. Well, now UDOT thinks they may have found the solution. The chemistry lab at the Utah Department of Transportation is trying to make road markings easier to see. Jason Natz is the chemistry lab supervisor at UDOT. As part of his master's thesis with the University of Utah, he came up with the idea of using phosphorescent paint for the road. It's essentially glow-in-the-dark paint that glows brighter than your average kid's toy.
Specifically, a type of phosphorescent paint that is protected against the elements.
Right now, they mix glass beads with road paint, and the beads then reflect the light from the headlights of drivers' cars. And depending on how the next phase of testing goes, UDOT says we could start to see those glowing lines in the next year or so.
Cache County is using technology to help an injured goose. Bruce the goose is a 13-year-old domestic Chinese goose. His bill was damaged by a raccoon a few weeks ago, and his human friends at Utah State University used a 3D printer to save his life. Took several models and fittings, but the team was able to print a bill that works as good as new.
First, he shook his head, like rejecting it, but then he started moving his mouth up and down, like starting to use the beak, and it was really cool.
The new bill allows Bruce to eat and groom himself normally. He's expected to live 2 or 3 years longer, thanks to the addition.
Bruce holding his head a little higher these days.
He's got his new fancy printed beak.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, I'll tell you what, our weather this afternoon, spectacular here across northern Utah. It's the day to get outside. If you liked yesterday's temperatures, then you'll like today, but it's just a little bit cooler and a lot sunnier. This is a live look from our old mill cam. So this is from 6200 south, right off that east side belt, facing towards Big Cottonwood Canyon. It's 53 degrees here in Salt Lake City right now. Light wind out of the west at 5 miles per hour. Here's what we have going on right now here across the state. We've got low 50s for the Wasatch Front, so 50 in Provo, 53 in Lehigh, 50 in Ogden, 49 in Logan and across southwest Utah. Temperatures in St. George only 1 degree warmer than here in Salt Lake City at 54 degrees right now. 51 for Cedar City. Depending on where you are, we've got temperatures fairly similar to this time yesterday. And it might be a degree or two warmer or cooler, but here in Salt Lake, it's the same exact temperature. We've got clouds across the southeastern portion of the state, mostly south of I-70 and east of I-15, but tons of sunshine here across northern Utah. As we go ahead and zoom in on that satellite and radar for the last hour, you can see we've got dry conditions right now across eastern Utah and southwest Utah. For St. George, since you're west of I-15, you've got pretty much sunny sky right now, and across northern Utah. Here's what it looks like Solitude, Powderhorn, so bluebird skiing conditions, blue sky right now. And from our Ochre cam, this is Farnsworth Peak looking across the Salt Lake Valley. There's Salt Lake City right there off in the distance. Sunny sky and warm temperatures heading into your 12-hour forecast. Now, of course, our sun's going to set about 7:30 tonight, and we'll dip back into the 40s after that. But until then, expect temperatures to be in the 50s. For this afternoon, we're going to have those temperatures in the mid-50s for the Wasatch Front, 60s for Cedar City, 71 in St. George, and across eastern Utah. Moab, mid-60s for Price, close to 60, same thing for Vernal, and for Park City in the upper 40s today. And tomorrow morning, a sunrise forecast. We're going to have rain moving into southern Utah overnight, so you'll wake up with cloudier conditions than we will here across northern Utah. But a sunrise forecast for your Friday morning here across the state, mostly in the 30s. So how does this evening play out? Once we get to about midnight, that's when our increased chances for rain will return, potentially some thunderstorms. This goes ahead and it moves up across the state. And then by Saturday morning, we're going to have the chance mostly for mountain precipitation, but potentially some valley precipitation at this time. And then that becomes more widespread heading into later in the day on Saturday. Potentially some heavy precipitation with this heading into Saturday evening, so maybe some travel impacts. And then we'll continue some on and off chances for storms through the early to middle portion of next week. So it's just an unsettled pattern that will be sticking around for the 7-day forecast. For southern Utah, we'll have it in the 60s today, 50s tomorrow, 60s after that for the rest of your 7-day forecast until next Wednesday. An even bigger cool down with highs about 50. And for Salt Lake, 50s today and tomorrow, Low 60s this weekend, mid 50s by next Wednesday. Kind of on and off precipitation heading into this weekend. Wind will pick up heading into Friday night, and that's ahead of our storm arriving this weekend. So keep that in mind. You'll want to just maybe have a backup plan for any outdoor activities.
All right.
Or just go
unexpected.
and
Just
take
take
the
it all
good
in.
stuff. Yeah, the waterproof gear.
Yeah, prepare.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Thanks, Allie.
The movie Bloodshot is set to hit theaters. What Vin Diesel says about his superhero role coming up. Vin Diesel is ready for more action by transforming into a popular comic book superhero for his next role.
Fox's Steve Rappaport has the story.
What is this place?
Vin Diesel gets an upgrade in the comic book film Bloodshot. Starring as a superhero for the first time on the big screen, the actor plays an elite soldier killed in action who was brought back to life with superpowers by an organization planning to use him as a weapon.
Improved, enhanced. We know that Bloodshot is a New York Times best-selling comic. We know that the military has adopted Bloodshot for obvious reasons. It does deal with post-traumatic stress disorder. It does deal with the soldier's plight of, will I be recognized when I come home? Will the sacrifices mean anything?
When you're playing a comic book character, you know, the world is limitless.
We all had fun. We enjoyed it, and any like excuse to do a movie with Vin Diesel, of course, as well. You just jump at that chance.
Best known for his roles in movies such as the Fast and Furious franchise and the Chronicles of Riddick, Diesel hopes playing Ray Garrison, the most popular character in the Valiant comic universe, will leave a lasting impression on viewers.
I know that I'm aware of committing to a character with integrity. I know that integrity will stand the test of time.
He's a legendary action star, right? So there are tricks and things to make you look cool. Just the way you stand, your posture, how you turn your head. Paying attention to some of that stuff, initially I was like, what is this man doing? And then you watch the film and you go, oh, that boy good.
That is absolutely fantastic.
Vin Diesel transforms into a superhuman in theaters this weekend. Steve Rappaport, Fox.